Welcome to Mocktails and Masterpieces with the Indianapolis Chamber Orchestra.
Greetings, ICO friends. Matthew Kraemer here once again with the remarkable Sharon Isbin. Sharon, it is great to see you again. Thank you so much for joining this and for this upcoming performance of Karen LeFrak's Miami Concerto. I'd love to chat with you a little bit about your career, distinguished career, and all of the remarkable work that you've done, not only for the standard guitar repertoire, but also in commissioning new music as well. And we touched on this briefly before. But you mentioned something that resonated with me, that your love for new music started at a very, very young age. Could you just talk to us a little bit about balancing these two, first of all, between what was considered the standard repertoire, which you've championed and brought to the stage more than any other guitarist that I can name, but also the challenges and the possibilities of new music as well?
Well, it's exciting to be in the forefront of something that's being created anew and that you can actually influence how that turns out. And for me, being able to work with a living composer is an indescribable experience, because you're changing the future course of the instrument in a way. I mean, I've had at this point over a dozen concerti written for me, over 80 works in total that I have premiered, and I find it exciting to explore new techniques on the instrument, new ideas, things that I might never have thought of, especially if I'm working with a composer who's not a guitarist. They have no boundaries. Sometimes that's good, sometimes that's not. But in the case of certainly the Miami Concerto, it was something that flowed very naturally and fit the instrument idiomatically. I've had to do all kinds of crazy things, like with the John Coriano Troubadours Concerto, incorporate a new sound system that was created for me, wireless, so that I could perambulate amidst the orchestra and emerge from the 13th century troubadour France, walking while playing the fastest and longest scale ever written in a guitar concerto, and then settle down into a chair and perform this beautiful work. With Lucas Foss, he wanted to create the effect of a loop delay, except not use electronics. So he had me tapping on various parts of the instrument to create a melodic effect of the song Wayfaring Stranger while I was actually playing. Again, I didn't know how I would do any of this, but I had to figure it out, and would just simply say, yes, I'll find a way. And that's always been my go-to spirit.
Oh, I love that. And you mentioned in the previous interview we did with Karen that the Miami Concerto just fits, wonderfully. There were very few things that you needed to do to adjust to make that work, even though Karen doesn't have a background in guitar. But have there been, that's a wonderful story about Corigliano, first of all, and that piece, but have there been other examples of a score that's come to you that you've just looked at and go, this is not possible at all, that you've had to go in and rework or to reconfigure for the left and the right hand?
Well, I remember when Chris Rouse was writing his concerto, fax machines were very popular in those days. So every day I'd get another page. And that was actually a very handy way of editing, because rather than dumping on me the whole score at the end when it was finished and I'd have to pull my hair out, it was a process where I could just tweak a note here or octave there and say, this chord works perfectly, but I'd like to revoice this one. So doing it step by step was something that worked for both of us. And whir of the fax machine, that certainly was an indication he was hard at work. With Tan Dun, it was very interesting. He somehow did his homework. I had sent him manuals how to write for the guitar, given him recordings of mine, played for him scores, and I hardly had to change a note. He was trying to make the guitar, and he did so effectively, sound like a pipa, which is an ancient Chinese lute with fast tremolando effects. So yes, there were specific things there which I had to innovate on my own instrument to become a pipa player. But he really loved that in the end, how it worked, and said, congratulations, you sound like a pipa. So that was exciting as well. And with the Rouse, it's interesting because he was inspired by Gaudi, the famous architect from Barcelona, who incidentally, starting in the 2026, 27 and on season, there's a huge centennial being celebrated in Gaudi's honor. And it was interesting that for Chris, the Sagrada Familia Cathedral, which is still being built after 100 years, is something that evoked for him a sense of beauty and lyricism. So every composer has a different inspiration, and I just kind of follow that lead and see where it takes me.
And I mentioned the standard concerto, which you've championed so much, but you again have connections to that as well. Rodrigo, I remember seeing a picture of you with him in the late '90s as well.
Right.
So this is a lineage that goes back from the works that you're commissioning and championing now to the works that audiences loved for many, many years. I'm also very interested to talk to you about your embracing of other musical styles outside of what we would traditionally consider classical. Do you feel like the guitar, I mean, in the career that you've brought to international stages, is obviously connected with so many different styles of music and from other cultures as well. It seems like you're actively seeking out collaborations and embracing them as well. How has that influenced your classical approach, or just in general? I'd love to hear your thoughts about embracing other musical styles.
Well, Latin American music, specifically Brazilian, was really my first crossover experience. I had already studied with Alirio Diaz from Venezuela, Latin American music. I even had lessons when I was a young teenager with Andres Segovia, and Oscar Gilia was my mentor for many years, 5 summers at the Aspen Music Festival. But it was playing music from Brazil with percussion. I toured for nearly 20 years with the Brazilian percussionist Tiago de Mello. And that's why playing in Miami Concerto with this whole battery of amazing Latin percussionists is a natural thing for me. It's even natural when I collaborate with Amjad Ali Khan. We've now been performing together since 2019 and touring, and have made 2 albums. He's the foremost sarod virtuoso of India. So with him and his sons and our fabulous tabla player, which is their percussion instrument from India, again, that whole spirit of evolution is something that has changed me as a performer and allows me to see interconnections. There are connections between Spain and India and Latin America and America. So this fusion of cultures makes you realize that we're really all from one human race, and that it would be amazing if we all got along together like we do and can do in music.
I love that. That is very, very well said. I'd like to share a little bit now of the Miami Concerto with our audience here. Here's a musical excerpt of what our audiences can look forward to. That was tremendous, Sharon. Thank you so much for joining us in the very near future here to share the Miami Concerto. What has been for you the most positive part, or the most inspiring part of playing this new concerto by Sharon Lefrak?
I'd have to say that it's several-fold. One, it's joyous for me to play because it again allows me to be expressive in the lyricism of the instrument that I love, and to bring together my grand affection for Latin American music and Latin American dances. I even studied, as did our producer, Elaine Martone. She was a professional competitive ballroom dancer. I was not. I was just doing it for fun, but I took ballroom dancing to be able to learn tango and bachata and merengue and salsa and all of that. So for me, it's part of my spirit, and I love having a piece where I can just indulge in that. And the other pleasure for me is seeing the audience reaction. They really absolutely go nuts over this piece, and it must just say something and speak to them in a way that is very powerful and inspirational.
We look very much forward to having you with us in Indianapolis for the Miami Concerto. Personally, I've been looking forward to this for ages. I've been an admirer for a very, very long time, and it's my first opportunity to meet and work with you as well. Sharon, thanks for taking the time with us to chat about your career and the Miami Concerto.
Thank you, Matthew, and I appreciate your support and your enthusiasm, and all of this is what you generate to your amazing audience and your orchestra, and I can't wait to have the honor and pleasure of performing with you.
Thank you so much.